Good morning, traders. It is 9:01 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday, the 6th of September, 2017. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. The market stance versus yesterday's close is slightly bullish today on the indices. Crude oil leading the pack. Crude oil continues higher. Just a beautiful breakout yesterday in crude to the upside. Got to 48.98 on the high and left a very clean and clear low volume node behind at 48.03 through 48.05 or so. And this morning it basically traded sideways throughout the Asian session, and then during Europe it started to crawl up and it's breaking higher yet again. So yesterday's high 48.98 and this morning's high is 49.28 or so. And that's where we stand with crude. Actually, it's 49.38. So crude leading the pack. The DAX is strong this morning, up 1.11% or 135 points, followed by the Euro stocks, and then we have the U.S. indices leading the board next. The laggard today is RBOB. RBOB losing another 1.5% this morning. Again, RBOB gasoline October 2017 contract. RBOB is a distillate of crude oil, and it's rallied quite a bit due to the hurricane effects on refining capacity in Houston, and that's starting to come back online. The laggards today, RBOB, Japanese yen, and the Euro bond, as well as US dollar and a 10-year note. The US Treasury bond is up 3 ticks, but the market's allocating to risk this morning. Important to note that that's what's occurring here. It looks like we are pushing, the ES is pushing back or attempting to push back into balance. We'll go over that in a minute. As far as news, there's more and more worry about the government's ability to come to an agreement on the debt ceiling. The 4-week bill yesterday, the auction, drew a yield of 1.3%. This is the highest we've seen since the beginning of the 2008 financial crisis. Traders are putting a premium on the ability for the government to run past September. And then, for those of you who follow cryptos, you probably saw that the currencies took a big hit on China, uh, uh, basically saying that the cryptocurrencies would be looked at as an illegal currency in China. And some of those took a really big hit yesterday. And then, other than that, there's really not much more to report. As far as what we're looking for today, we're looking for U.S. Services PMI final for August. That comes out at 9:45 Eastern at 56.9. ISM non-manufacturing at 10 o'clock at 55.5. And then at 2 o'clock, we get the Federal Reserve Beige Book release. So that's about it for as far as news. Let me take a quick scan here, see if anything's come out since I did my homework. Yeah, that's the way it looks. Trade balance came out today, slightly better at negative 43.7 billion versus 44.7 billion. Let's take a look at the chart and see what we can glean from it. Yesterday, yesterday was definitely interesting. The main expectations and the high probability plays for the market to open and push higher first and back into the prior day's range. I expected it to test at least 24.74 and a quarter and then get into 24.75 even before it stabilizes. That was hypo 1. Hypo 2, that did not work at all. It started to look good, but as soon as the market failed to close the gap zone above and get back into the range, it was clear that sellers were dominant. The secondary hypothesis Monday after NFP was for the market to just go sideways and build a tight balanced profile. We are on top of, again, as I outlined yesterday, we are on top of the MC point of control. We are on top of a naked point of control that was put in on Thursday. So the market likes these prices. It has a little bit of resistance above. It has a little bit of support below. The expectation is it would stay in range yesterday. That did not happen either. Again, I'm going by what is likely to happen given a normal auction, which is not what we saw yesterday. The tertiary idea was for the market to make an attempt higher, fail to touch or get into the prior day's range, and we'd get an impulse down, continuation down, and the expectation was for us to get to the gap zone and hold steady with a rally into the close. Now, this is how things looked once the market failed under its own power. Once it failed, we essentially had hypo 3 yesterday. But there was news that North Korea was placing its ICBMs on its west coast, strategically targeting, uh, basically making strategic moves for a strike. They're taking a strike position with their ICBMs. The market did not respond well to that, and so we saw, here we are, we saw the market push up immediately. Then we took out, so at this point, I was still looking for the prior day's low. I was looking for value low. But as soon as we took out the opening swing low here, then I started to look for a hypo 3 or 2 to work out, hypo 2 to stay inside and trade sideways, hypo 3 to continue lower, potential test of the mid, consolidate and continue lower, and it looked like hypo 3 was in play here with IB low being broken. The news came out right here, and then the market immediately responded with an impulse down. We got 9.75 points without a single 7-tick pullback. We get the consolidation, we get the continuation, and we got a further continuation until we found a bottom near 24.46, and then the market started to work itself back up. A nice setup here for the mid for a quick 3 points or so. Once we're filled, and then it ran up higher into the close. The market is trading up here right now. It's trading at 24.6550 above yesterday's close. So that's what happened yesterday. It was definitely not expected. The extent to which selling would occur was expected to hold right in here. So I was looking for this to be taken out, and then for the market to start working itself back up, just like the hypothesis showed. Okay, but a lot of jabber on Twitter and a lot of propaganda and gameplay between North Korea and the current U.S. administration. So that's how things worked out. The low yesterday was put in against the key high volume node on the composite. So I put a composite up to include all this entire rally from the 29th, from Tuesday. And then that way we can see from the composite which areas are key areas. So we could see areas of rejection, areas of acceptance. So this is the point of control. This is the main acceptance. Areas of rejection, areas of acceptance, areas of rejection, areas of acceptance. For those of you who've watched webinar 2 on my website, will recognize that this is something I talked about, whatever, 7 years ago or something. It's the same. We continue to go from acceptance to non-acceptance, acceptance to non-acceptance, and so on until we find what we're seeking. In this case, we're seeking buyers. We found them in this lower high volume node area, and then the market started pushing higher. The overnight session, that's not the overnight session. The overnight session, where are you? It's unfortunate that Windows 10 makes these so thick you can't see what you're clicking on. The overnight session, you can see here that we just went sideways completely on the Asian session, and then Europe opened right here. Europe attempted to make a lower low on a release earlier this morning that was bought up and has been trending up. It's been trending up since. So to me, this looks like it is responding back to the upper balance. It's pushing back towards the upper balance. Overall, the overnight inventory is just slightly long this morning. It spent most of the morning below the close, but now the overnight inventory slightly long. The delta on volume, the volume on the overnight inventory is slightly up, but nothing. I don't see a huge imbalance here. I'm not expecting a big move, a big pullback on the open. So that brings us to where we are now. As we include yesterday, so as we watch this profile form, we can see what areas the market has auctioned and how it has filled in those areas. So as I include yesterday, you can see that we're just filling in this area right here. We filled in this area right here. Okay. And we traded a little bit lower and created a new high volume node. So you see that high volume node coming up here. So this will act as a base. This is likely to act as a base. Right now we're trading above the key low volume node. This is a key low volume node. We're trading above it. This is expected to be support. So when we're trading this morning as part of the auction, we want to pay attention to these prices down here in the 24, 56, 57 area, expecting support. We could see that there's consolidation there. I'm expecting support. So this morning, I'm expecting the primary expectation is for the market to open, move lower slightly, auction lower slightly. I'm looking for the impulse higher. And then overall, I'm expecting the recovery back to 2468.75, 2468.75, yesterday's open. That's the primary hypothesis, expecting it to consolidate and then start to push higher into the close. It is likely to be a full recovery of yesterday's action. That's the primary hypothesis. If we open this morning, push higher and are unable to regain any ground and hold on to it, we break the opening swing low, then I'm looking for the market to test and break this low volume node here down at 2460. This is where the gap zone was before, the mid of the gap zone, and then I'm expecting it to impulse down at some point, and then we get the continuation into our base at 2456, at which point I expect it to consolidate, test, and then hold higher. That's hypo 2. Hypo 1 is very, very likely this morning. I'm expecting a continuation of the overnight action higher. Okay, so those are the two main hypotheses. I want to remind you again that I'm going to be doing a public AMA for Futures IO this afternoon at 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern. The link to register is in the description of this video on YouTube. It's also on my Twitter feed. I suggest, even if you cannot attend at 4:30 Eastern US time today, I suggest you register so that you're notified of the recording once it comes out. It's an extended AMA. If you're attending, bring your toughest questions. We'll try to deal with them. I'm making myself available to share my knowledge as a prop shop owner and as somebody who's watched traders trade for a long time. And as a trader myself, making myself available to you to ask whatever you might want answers for as best as I can. Good luck, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Take care.